Knows better about surprise than Japan. Okay? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay? Right? You know, he's asking me, do you believe in surprise?
This moment starts like a routine diplomatic question, but within seconds it turns into something far more intense, far more revealing. Because what you're about to see is not just a discussion about military strategy. It's a real-time example of how power, history and messaging collide on the global stage. A Japanese reporter asks a direct question. Why weren't key allies informed before a major military move? A question rooted in trust, coordination, and alliance expectations. But instead of a straightforward diplomatic answer, the response takes a sharp and unexpected turn, bringing up the idea of surprise in warfare, and then invoking one of the most sensitive historical events between the US and Japan. And that's where everything changes, because now this is no longer just policy, this is perception, tone, and historical memory, all at once. Watch closely, not just what is said, but how it's said, because that's where the real story is.
We're Japanese people. Of course, now Japan and US are very good friends, but one question, why didn't you tell US allies in Europe and Asia, like Japan, about the war before attacking Iran? So we are very confused about we Japanese citizens.
Well, one thing, you don't want to signal too much. You know, when we go in, we went in very hard, and we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay? Right? You know, he's asking me, do you believe in surprise? I think much more so than us. And we had to surprise him, and we did. And because of that surprise, we knocked out, the first 2 days, we probably knocked out 50% of what we, and much more than we anticipated doing. So if I go and tell everybody about it, there's no longer a surprise, right? Okay, one more for the Prime Minister. Are you good for the Prime Minister?
Yes,
go ahead for the Prime Minister.
Thank you very much. Japan's JJ Press. Japan's biggest concern is China. Now they are giving us export control and very harsh terms to criticize us. So could you plan? Will you plan to bring up relationship between Japan and China while you're there?
Yeah. Well, I'll be going to China very quickly, but I think I'd really like to have the Prime Minister talk about China because I know they have a little bit of an edgy relationship, and I'd just like to know where it stands, how you're doing with China. So, please.
で日本はいつも中国に対してオープンです。会話はオープンにしています。それから冷静に対応しています。でとにかく米中関係も含めてですね、これが地域の安定、それから世界のサプライチェーン、これに貢献するものであることを願っています。日本は常にオープンです。
So first of all, Japan has been consistently open to dialogue with China. And also, second, we have been addressing our relations with China in a calm manner. And also, speaking of the U.S.-China relationship, my sincere hope is that the relationship will be something conducive for regional security and also ensuring the global supply chain in the world. Once again, I would like to reiterate that Japan has been consistently open to dialogue with China.
And I think we're going to have a great trip. The trip has been postponed for about a month and a half. It's been reset, and we look forward to it. And I'll be speaking Japan's praises when I'm in China with President Xi. But we're going to have some good talks today. And I think mostly about trade, because they want to do a lot of trade. They're a tremendous purchaser of our energy, our oil, gas from, in particular, Alaska. Because Alaska, believe it or not, is very close. It's much closer than any other source. It seems a little cold compared to, but it's just a short trip.
So that's something that we will talk after the press corps leaves.
We'll be discussing trade, and a lot of the talk will be about energy. Thank you very much, everybody.
What stands out immediately is how fast the tone shifts. The reporter's question is calm, measured, rooted in alliance logic. But the response pivots almost instantly into justification through military strategy. The concept of surprise becomes the centerpiece. And from a purely tactical standpoint, that argument is clear. You don't warn others if you want operational success. But then comes the rhetorical escalation, the reference to Pearl Harbor, and that changes everything about how this moment is perceived. Because that reference is not neutral. It carries decades of history, emotion, and geopolitical sensitivity. And in that instant, the exchange moves away from policy and into symbolism. This is a classic rhetorical deflection. Instead of staying within the framework of the question, the response reframes the conversation entirely. It shifts from, "Why didn't you inform allies?" to, "Don't you understand the value of surprise?" And more importantly, it puts the reporter in a difficult position because responding to that historical reference in the moment is nearly impossible. That's a strategic communication move, one that redirects pressure. But it also introduces risk because different audiences will interpret it very differently. For some, it may come across as strong, confident, even sharp, a leader unapologetically defending a decision. For others, especially in Japan, it can feel uncomfortable, even inappropriate, because of the historical weight attached to that comparison. And this is where tone becomes critical. The delivery is informal, almost conversational, not the carefully calibrated language you usually expect in diplomacy. That informality can feel authentic, but it also removes the safety net of precision, and that's when moments like this become controversial. Now watch how the dynamic shifts again. When the conversation moves to China, the Japanese Prime Minister's response is calm, structured, deliberate, focused on dialogue, stability, and regional security. This contrast is striking. On one side, you have assertive, unpredictable rhetoric. On the other, controlled, diplomatic language. Two completely different communication strategies, playing out in the same moment. One aims to dominate the narrative, the other aims to stabilize it, and both serve political purposes. Media coverage will likely split along these lines. Some will highlight the Pearl Harbor remark, framing it as shocking or controversial. Others will focus on the broader justification of military secrecy, framing it as a necessary strategic decision. And that framing will shape how millions of people interpret what just happened. Politically, the impact is mixed. The assertive defense of surprise tactics may resonate with audiences who value strength and decisiveness. It reinforces an image of control, but it also risks straining diplomatic tone, especially with close allies who expect a certain level of sensitivity. For Japan, the Prime Minister's measured response works in the opposite direction. It reinforces stability, restraint, and reliability, which can be a powerful signal in a region already dealing with tension involving China. And that's the bigger picture here. This isn't just about one question or one answer. It's about how leaders communicate under pressure, how they balance domestic messaging with international relationships, and how quickly a moment can shift from policy to symbolism. Because once history enters the conversation, you're no longer just talking about the present, you're invoking memory, identity, and perception. And that's where things become unpredictable. So the real question is, was this a strong and justified defense of military strategy, or was it a rhetorical move that went too far in a sensitive diplomatic setting? Let me know what you think. And if you want more deep breakdowns like this, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for the next analysis.